Hello and welcome to the Oddschecker betting show. This is a Royal Ascot preview, day 5, the Saturday, the final day of Royal Ascot, and it's brought to you by Oddschecker, sponsored by Sky Bet. I'm your host, George Elek, and I'm joined by two expert tipster guests today. Of course, we have Oddschecker's very own Andy Holding, but making his Oddschecker betting show debut, we have Sporting Life's Ben Linfoot. Good to have you here with us today, Ben. And for those who don't read your columns so far, sell it to us. Tell us what you do. Tell us how you got into racing and what we can find of yours up on Sporting Life.
Yeah, thank you, George. Thanks for having me, guys. Yeah, brief introduction. I've been at Sporting Life 15 years now. God, that sounds a long time, doesn't it? and wrote the Value Bet column for 10 years, which I passed on to colleague Matt Brocklebank last year, and he's doing a great job with it. But yeah, I'm just still writing as much about racing as I possibly can. Love the sport. And what a great week with Royal Ascot, and I'm glad you've picked me for day 5 Saturday. It's my favourite day. I remember seeing Star Spangled Banner win the Diamond Jubilee, and also I was there for Black Caviar as well. So it's a favourite day of mine, the Saturday of Royal Ascot, and plenty to look forward to this year.
Yeah, absolutely. My favourite day as well. Some great memories of being on course or watching it in pubs around the country. A brilliant day. And Andy, before we get into the racing, just to clear something up, because those regular watchers of this show on YouTube will be wondering if you've moved house, given the different background behind you. But it turns out you've just got life by the Nadgers. You've just driven down to the holiday home to watch the racing for the week.
Yeah, I've decided to have a few days off, get away from the madding crowd, which is our house. We've got builders in at the moment doing a bit of work on the back garden, etc. Plus the fact, it's very time consuming this week. So every sort of single hour, half an hour is very precious. So I took it on board to decide to come away on Monday and come down and relax here. Although the last 2-3 days have been quite stressful with doing lots of previews and getting my column up on time. So
this is the end of it.
It was the right. Yeah, I'm home free after today.
Exactly. Before we get into the racing, Andy, just a quick word, because we're recording this at 9:15 on Wednesday morning. Nearly forgot the day there, which means the final decks aren't out yet for Saturday. We're going to do our best to go through it. But we've got one day's racing to go off now. What did we learn from that? And also from when we last spoke on Monday, has the weather forecast done anything to change the way you're thinking if you're betting later on in the week?
Yeah, it was a case of damage limitation, wasn't it, on the first day? Lots of big price winners, managed to nick a few in the frame at half decent odds, which stopped the bleeding a little bit. But high numbers very much dominated the first day. I presume they'll dominate second day as we speak on the Wednesday. We don't know that for sure, but big fields looks like that's the way it'll be. And then we're in the lap of the gods, aren't we, Thursday onwards? I mean, with the rain that's forecast, could be anything from 5 mil up to 20 mil, depending on which weather maps you trust. And that's going to, offer up a whole new dynamic to not only Thursday and Friday, but obviously Saturday, which we're talking about. Could it dry out by then? Is there going to be a little bit more continue of the rain? Who knows? So this day is very, very tricky to predict. 3 days in advance. I'm getting that caveat in beforehand.
Yeah, fair enough. Let's get into the racing. But before we do, just going to point the listeners and viewers, as ever, in the direction of the Oddschecker app. Do download it now for the best prices, best bookie offers, the best place terms, crucial for Royal Ascot, where some firms are really sticking their neck out, and some of the very best tipsters in the game, including Andy. And of course, Sky Bet do sponsor this podcast and video, and they have some of the best enhancements and place terms you can find. So make sure you do check Sky Bet and their offers every day throughout Royal Ascot, because especially yesterday, I mean, they were really sticking their neck out for some places. And with the way that Andy certainly looks to bet, that's the way you want to be going to maximise your possible either damage limitation if you're not getting the winners, or if not, hopefully maximise your profit. On then to the first race of the day, and it is the Chesham, where we've got Point Lonsdale, who is the 11-8 favourite ahead of New Science at 3-1. Massacada 6-1, Great Max 12-1, Sweeping 14-1, Reaching for the Moon 16-1, 25-1 Bar. And Ben, given this is your debut, it's only fair and polite if we give you first run at the first.
Thank you very much. Yeah, the Chesham. Obviously, the race conditions changed, didn't they, a few years ago? And I think that could be important. Obviously, it used to be just the sire that had to have won over a mile and a quarter for you to qualify to run in this race. But now it's the dam as well. And I think those speedier sires might be beginning to have an impact. We saw Battleground last year, son of Warfront, won this race, and he wouldn't have qualified a few years ago. And so it's interesting. You look at horses like Masakela for Andrew Baldwin, who was really impressive on debut at Goodwood. We don't see too many Andrew Baldwin 2-year-olds win on debut, do we? But we saw Batchy Shadow win on debut at Newbury, and he came out and won the Coventry. And this Masakala looks a good tool to me. His form was let down a little bit by the second, wasn't it? Golden War didn't run very well in the Coventry himself, but he's by one of these sires I'm talking about, a speedy American sire, El Kabir, and he could have too much toe for a lot of his opponents on Saturday. Obviously, we've got to talk about Point Lonsdale, who was so impressive in Ireland. Aidan O'Brien came out and said he's got all the right stuff after he won by over 7 lengths on debut. So I'm sure he's going to be dominating the market. There's plenty to talk about. New Science as well, that form with Reach for the Moon, who's in there. And the other one, which is Find for John and Taylor Gosden, he was a bit further behind in 5th in that race. That could be a key form line as well. And I'd give a mention to Sweeping for Archie Watson, the Siuni. He was second to Dabab, who at Leicester. And I thought Dabab ran all right in the Coventry.
Andy's got a few thoughts on Dabab, I think.
Well, I was a little bit unlucky.
Just a few. Oh, God, yeah.
Were you on him, Andy?
I was. He was one of my biggest winners of the week, really, to be honest. I was fuming. Luckily, I managed to back it with a couple of times with firms who are offering 6 places, but it only papered over the cracks, to be honest. I mean, yeah, I'm not saying he would have definitely won, but he was definitely gathering up a nice head of steam when he got chopped up and stopped in his run twice. And then he finished very, very strong. Yeah, I think he would have been second at worst.
Yeah, so with that in mind, that's a key form line, isn't it? And Sweeping, that was a nice debut in second to that horse. So 7 furlongs, son of Siuni, could be ideal for him. Holly Doyle likely to ride. So there's quite a few in there. My selection would be Masakela for Andrew Baldwin and Oisin Murphy. I think he can step forward, and if it does rain, and it looking like it is going to be pretty significant rain, that won't bother him either.
Masakela 6-1 best price at the moment as it stands on Wednesday morning for the first on Saturday. Andy?
Yeah, just based on pure time figures, this one's a fairly straightforward and boring selection, but I think as far as I'm concerned, Point Lonsdale's probably the best 2-year-old we're going to see here this week. I mean, he was absolutely breathtaking at the Curragh, but I've got the numbers to back it up as well. I mean, he was not only the fastest time on the card, or one of the fastest times on the card. I think there was a Group 2 contest for the older horses, which is slightly quicker. But in comparison, for a 2-year-old first time up against those older horses, he comes out really well on the numbers, particularly his back-end work from 3 out to the line when he really started to stretch and drop his shoulder. Once he met that rising ground, he was devastating. Form's already worked out well. I think the horse that chased him home won the other day at Gowran. So straight away, I know that form line is as rock solid as the visual impression suggested. But he's a monster. He doesn't look a 2-year-old at the moment. You look at him as well. You're physically, I'm sure the paddock watchers who are there at Ascot on Saturday will be blown away by him. So he's a very, very good horse. It'll take a good one to beat him. In fact, I just don't think he'll get beat. New Science, in contrast, clocked a very slow time when he won on his debut. So while we were raving, or certain people were raving about him visually, his numbers just don't stack up. Highly unlikely to follow in the hoof prints of Pinatubo, in my opinion. But yeah, Point Lonsdale for me, best bet of the day.
Point Lonsdale, best bet of the day for Andy, gets it in early, 11-8. Should mention Sweeping, who did finish behind Dabab on debut, 14-1. And if, as Andy says, if you take New Science out, who's 13, suddenly that 14-1 could appear as an each-way angle. At a decent price if you're not into backing 11-8 shots. On to the Jersey now. The Jersey Stakes, the second race of the day, and a bit more of an open affair this rather than having a short price favourite at the top of the market. Very open. Creative Force 9-2. Naval Crown 5-1. That's best price with Skybet. Mustabek is 11-2. Khartoum 8-1. Belosa 10-1. Vadream, Memento, Magnanimous all 10-1 as well. Tactical 12-1. 14-1. Bar, Andy. How are you assessing the Jersey?
Yeah, I got quite a strong one in this one. It just depends on how much rain they get. Might just temper enthusiasm slightly. A horse called Ace Ozzy. I marked him off as a Jersey horse the day when he ran at Leopardstown back on the 9th of May. He was defeated by a horse called Maker of Kings, but he nicked it from the front basically. And Shane Foley was held up towards the back of the field, just couldn't get anywhere near the winner. But
Colin Keane it was.
Colin Keane, of course it was, yeah, Joe Lyons. And as we know, Leopardstown's very much a track where it's hard to make ground up in the short straight. He only got beat a length and a half, and I marked him up seriously off that run. But I just also felt that mile trip just slightly stretched him. And if you go back to his previous run, he finished second to no one other than Poetic Flare in that Guineas trial at the same track over 7 furlongs back in April. Now, that form line for me is easily one of the best, if not the best form line coming into this race. He also won over 7 furlongs previously as a 2-year-old. And he's handled a bit of juice in the ground. He's gone well on yielding ground, Irish ground. So providing it dries out, it's not too bad. Let's say it's good to soft or something in and around that ballpark. I think 12-1 for Ace Ozzy is massive. 14s, yeah. God, yeah, even better.
14-1 for Ace Ozzy, a pretty compelling case made there by Andy. Ben?
Yeah, well, Godolphin have got a very strong hand here, haven't they, with Creative Force and Naval Crown. As soon as they finished in the Guineas, I thought Naval Crown was the obvious Jersey horse in that race. Obviously, he led that day, and dropping back to 7 furlongs could be ideal for him. The form is obviously good. Poetic Flare and Lucky Vega showed that in the St James's Palace on the first day. So he is an interesting one. But Creative Force, his form's very strong. He beat Perotto, won subsequently. He beat Spycatcher in the free handicap winner Tactical in the Carnarvon Stakes. I think he probably would have run in the Commonwealth Cup had he qualified, but obviously being gelded, he couldn't run in that. So they're having to step him up in trip to 7 furlongs for the first time. It's on pedigree, he should be absolutely fine, shouldn't he, at 7 furlongs? But he's got to go and do it. He's got to go and prove it. So possibly fairly short in the betting with that in mind. But he's got a lot in his favour. His half-sister Persuasive loved Ascot, and I'm sure he will like Ascot too. So he's got to be on your shortlist, I think, Creative Force. One other one I like is Belosa for Jane Chapel Hyam. She made odds to win the listed Charles II Stakes at Newmarket from a John Gosden horse in Fundamental. And John Gosden was on a preview panel that we were associated with Sporting Live for. It was a racing welfare one ahead of Royal Ascot. And he said one of his bets of the week was this Belosa in the Jersey Stakes. I think he thinks an awful lot of Fundamental and couldn't believe that she beat him so easily at Newmarket. So another one to consider for Jane Chapel Hyam in an open race, but Godolphin's hand looks very strong to me, and I still look back at that Guineas, and my immediate impression was Naval Crown for the Jersey, and I'll probably stick with that.
Naval Crown 9-2 favourite as it stands. Belosa 10-1 best price. And Andy, just when you see horses with form figures of 1-1, often interesting to get a bit of insight into the times behind them. How did you clock? I mean, I know you may not have it to hand, but from your mind, how did you clock that Belosa win ahead of Fundamental, which John Gosden obviously clocked up as being an impressive run?
Yeah, they've been very strong times. Certainly the first one for the grade. We got it doing. We awarded a time figure of 88, which wouldn't mean nothing to you if you didn't know our scale. But you're looking at group horses, Group 2, Group 1 horses. They're usually above and beyond 95. So she has got to find a little bit with the main players. So it's possible if she carries on improving, but at the moment, yeah, just a little bit to find.
Maybe some more improvement to come. On to the Hardwicke now, where we've got Broome as the 7-2 favourite ahead of Wokingham at 9-2. Best price, both of those with Sky Bet. Ilarab 9-1 with Al-Arsi. Japan 10-1. Tiger Moth 10-1. Logician 11-1. Saron Priestley 12s. Mogul 14s. 16-1. Bar. Andy, I'll come to you first here. Al-Arsi 130, 4-1 favourite with a couple of firms, 9-1 elsewhere. So you can probably assume, and I think on the exchange trading at about 10-1. So maybe unlikely to run here.
It's a shame he isn't going to run. Obviously, they've got Wokingham in the race, the same connection, so that looks the plan. Wookingham's very much been targeted at this race by Owen Burrows. And Al-Arsi, of course, had a very hard race in the Coronation Stakes, as we know, only 15 days ago. I think William Agassiz's quite sensitive with his horses. He kind of doesn't overface them either. He's not that kind of handler. He's very sympathetic, so I don't think he'll turn up here with Al-Arsi, which is a shame because I think on form he'd have a great chance. We'll get on to Wokingham, who's obviously a course and distance winner. We saw him perform to a very high standard when he won here last year. The King George Handicap is always a good race. He's graphed this season. He's going in the right direction. He needed the run first time out, which is to be expected from a big, stuffy, gross horse. on ground that would have been probably a little bit too lively. But he got the juice in the ground last time out, and he was quite impressive, wasn't he? I do like the horse a lot. I think he's of a sound mind. He's honest, and I think you're pretty much going to get a massive run if you back Wokingham. I think he's a kind of horse. If you back each way, you think, well, I'm pretty sure I'm going to get my money back if there's 3 and 4 places on offer. If there might just be a superstar in there that might just be good enough to beat him, but he's definitely for me the solid one of the race. I'd certainly make a case out for Real Arab, who, if the rain comes, well, that'll also favour that one. Again, I'm not sure what William Haggis's running plans are. He's on an upward graph, and he always looked as though he is going to make a group horse, even though he's been winning handicaps and brushing aside slightly inferior opposition. Broom's obviously in great nick over in Ireland, and he seems to turn the corner this season. My long-term plan for this race, or project for this race, would have looked really good with the rain for Alba Flora, but Connections went a runner in the Coronation Stakes, which worked to a degree. She finished 4th, and the creditable won at that because she tried to chase the pace. But again, I think Rafe Beckett might not necessarily come here, having had a brutal hard race 15 days ago. Again, I don't know the ins and outs whether that comes here or not, but I'm annoyed that she ran in that race, because I thought she would have been a real good bet in this one, because Ascot suited her the time before. So, in short, yeah, I think Wokingham would be the most solid one out of all those that I mentioned.
Wokingham at 9-2, as I say, best price that one at the moment with Sky Bet. Ben, how are you seeing the Hardwicke at the moment?
Yeah, Andy summed it up quite well, and it's very difficult to decipher who is going to turn up here in the Hardwicke Stakes. It would be very un-William Haggis-like, I think, to run a Group 1 horse in a Group 2 15 days after he's been beaten in a Group 1. But my overriding impression after Epsom was this is a Group 1 winner in waiting. It's probably going to be in the King George, possibly, although there's some right horses going for that race, isn't there?
Yeah.
If you to Ed and O'Brien. Yeah, so I doubt Al-Alsi will turn up. Another one who we don't know who's got a quick turnaround is Highest Ground now. Sir Michael Stout's got a fantastic record in the Hardwicke. He's won it 11 times, and this Frankel colt looks to have turned a corner with a tongue tie on, won nicely at Leicester, but that was only 12 days ago in a small field race. If he turns out quickly, I think he's the sort of improving older horse that Sir Michael Stout does so well with, that could play a hand in a Hardwicke. But again, 12 days, Sir Michael Stout, I'm not sure if he'll make that turnaround. And Mark Johnston, talking of trainers with a good record in this race, Mark Johnston used to farm this race, didn't he, 20 years ago? When you look at Fruits of Love, Zindabad Bandari, and his Sir Ron Priestley, saw him at Newmarket early in the season. I was surprised he ran at York in the Yorkshire Cup, I must admit. But he's another one that's really dangerous if he's let loose on the lead. And I think you can forgive him his run on the Knaves Mare. I think he's better than that. And back at 1.5 miles with a little bit of cut in the ground, he could be a difficult one to peg back if he turns up and runs his race like he had been doing earlier in the season. So yeah, a lot of imponderables really. I'm not sure I'd want to put up a selection at this stage in the Hardwicke.
If I gave you
another one with good course form, isn't she? Who would love the rain? But I think we'll wait till final declarations and see who rocks up for this one.
If I gave you a free bet, and I'm sure you haven't been given a free bet for a while, what would be your selection?
I'd go with Sir Ron Priestley. I just think he can bounce back from that York run. We see Mark Johnston horses in and out of form all the time, and I think it was a rare blip for him. And back over 1.5 miles, I think he's got more to offer. So we'll go with him in thinking that the William Haggis and the Sir Michael Stout horses probably won't turn up.
Sir Ron Priestley, 12-1, best price at the moment. The selection for Ben Linfoot there. On to the Diamond Jubilee, the 4th race of the day. And Starman is the 11-4 favourite ahead of Dream of Dreams at 9-2. Nahar 6-1. Cape Byron 11-1 with Art Power. Royal Commando and Glen Shield both 14-1. 16-1 bar Andy. Starman bounced back in impressive fashion last time and looks a worthy favourite here.
He does on form, yeah. That's Duke of York at York is always a race that sets the kind of like tone for the rest of the season in this division. He's always looked a good horse, and he's Starman ever since he won on the all-weather at Linfoot. He always looked as though, certainly physically anyway, as he was going to make into a Group 1 horse, and of course last time out proved that. But I think this race is more ground dependent than any on the day. he very much wants good ground, I think, at worst. Good to soft, just about might get away with it. But if it got any worse than that, I think his chances will be seriously compromised. And at 5-2 at the moment, he's not the kind of horse I want to be backing anti-post. I think I'd wait to see nearer the day whether I got involved in him, because I can't see him shortening up anymore. I think he'll only go one way in the market. So at the moment, I'm going to be concentrating on horses that have got soft ground and course and distance form. Nahar's definitely top of my shopping list. He chased home Starman last time at York, proving himself in that grade. He's proven over the track. And his Air Gold Cup win, of course, also suggests he wants a very strongly run race with a bit of give in the ground. He's been targeted at this race. Dream of Dreams, he's another commendable horse at this level. He was unlucky in this race last year beyond Hello Yum Zone, but given soft ground, we know what he can do. He's had at Park Sprint win tells you that. And let's not forget Glenshield as well. He's very much going to be the unheralded horse again, but as we saw towards the back end of last season in October, he's as good as any at this level. And again, he's a course and distance winner. And if the rain came, 14-1 could look big for him. Obviously, I've mentioned probably the ones that everyone's looking at. For the value seeker, there's no doubt in my mind that Glenshield's the one that's overpriced. But I think Nahar, he's ready to make a breakthrough at this level. And he could turn the table rise on Starman, given softish ground.
Ben Shield, best price 14-1. Nahar 6-1, best price with Sky Bet. Ben?
Yeah, obviously Oxted boosted the Duke of York form, didn't he, with winning the King's Stand. I'd throw Kate Byron into the mix when we're talking about horses that like Ascot and like a bit of dig as well. He's obviously a Wokingham winner and bounced back to form last time. I think it's quite an open race. I wouldn't say it's a fantastic renewal of the Diamond Jubilee by any means. Starman and Nahar are probably the ones that everyone's looking at that could make that step to Group 1 level. I think they deserve to be where they are in the market, but they've sort of got to go and do it now. And always with that in mind, I always think there's a chance for a punter to strike at a biggish price. One on my radar, and he might be ground dependent and he might not want the rain, but I'll mention him anyway. He's Garrus for Charlie Hills, because he's a dead interesting horse who beat King's Lynn, giving him a lot of weight earlier in the season in that Newbury race that came from the dark one. That looks really good form. He ran well in the Palace House as well, with Arachiba behind, who was second in the King's Stand. And crucially, he is massively unexposed at 6 furlongs. He ran in it a lot when he was with Jerry Menezida in his youth. But Charlie Hills has almost exclusively campaigned him at 5. And I think stepping back up to 6 is a big positive for him. And a small field, soft ground, 3-runner affair at Windsor last time behind Dream of Dreams wouldn't have suited him at all. But I think he's much, much better than that. And if everything dropped his way, he could run a big race at 40-1. If they had a lot of rain, I would be less keen on his chances, I must admit. But I thought it was worth a mention.
Yeah, 40-1 there. Best price for Garrus at a massive price. Beers on you, Ben, if that one comes in, I think, from the listeners and the viewers. But yeah, certainly an interesting looking one there for the Diamond Jubilee. On to the Wokingham, where King's Lynn is the 8-1 favourite, who we saw, of course, running yesterday in the Queen's colours. Talk about that in a second, because it looked like a fairly unlucky run for King's Lynn. Chief of Chiefs 12-1, Rohan 12-1, as is Pendleton, Boardman 12-1 too, and Chill 14-1 Fresh and Bielsa, 16-1 Tis Marvellous, 20-1 Bar. Ben, we'll stick with you here. Obviously, we don't know whether or not we'll see King's Lynn pop up again, but fair to see why it's top of the market.
Oh, they've got to be tempted, haven't they?
Yeah.
Got to be tempted. Really unlucky in the King's Stand. Asheen Murphy took the brave man's route towards the stand's rail and just got blocked off a couple of times at crucial moments. And he looked to finish full of running. And he's a horse that has already proven himself over 6 furlongs. He'll be getting in here off a mark of 100 under a £5 penalty for his Haydock win. He was already rated 107 going into the King's Stand, so put him up a few pounds for that as well. I mean, he could be 10 plus, almost a stone well in. And that's got to tempt connections. I'm sure the Queen's rubbing her hands at being so well treated heading into a prestigious handicap like this one. So if he runs, he's going to make the market, isn't he? He's going to be a short price favourite. Look, even if he is so well in going into a Wokingham, it's a quick turnaround, and I think I'll be backing one against him each way. The one that I like is Tis Marvellous, for Clive Cox. A lovely horse, good attitude, a nice mover, loves Ascot, got form in this race, has come back down to a mark that we know he can run well off. He's been fourth in a Wokingham off 99. He's won at Ascot off marks of 100 and 103. He's been second in a Wokingham off 101, and which is the mark he's rated now as well. And he looks to be coming back to a bit of form. So I think he's around 16-1, and I'd take on King's Lynn each way with him.
Andy?
It's a bit of a conundrum for Andrew Baldwin, isn't it? Because he's got the long-term anti-post fate for this chill, and he's also now got a Johnny Come Lately in the horse Ben's already flagged up, King's Lynn, who ran an amazing race. From mark of 100, he looked particularly well handicapped. But look, it's a strong position to be in, isn't it? He'd rather be in that position than not. The ground's very important for chill. A horse that likes to hear its who's rattle. She was very, very good on the clock at Newmarket last time out. That form is pretty good in the context of this race. And we know she's got Ascot form over the course and distance as well. So that's a big positive for, big positive for her. The one I quite like in this race is Pendleton, however. When he ran here early on in the season, he just got nutted by a deep close called Fresh. He travelled extremely strongly, but that exuberance that he exhibited on that occasion just cost him, because it was his first run for 560 days. He was entitled to get a bit tired, but his run style that day, i.e. forcing the pace and being on the sharp end, as I've talked about time and time again, is not necessarily the way you want to be at Ascot. You want to be coming off the speed. You want to have horses like Oxted who don't get involved in the pace and then charge through at the end. He was given a little bit more of a circumspect ride next time out at York when he came through strongly and won over 5. I think he's better at 6. He won't mind digging the ground. Most of his career best performances have come with digging the ground. He's a course winner. He came from the dark here a couple of years ago. But the key or the crucial factor for him is if Calvin Rodriguez, first of all, gets a good draw. But if he does get a good draw, is to get some cover and to ride it with a bit of restraint. I think if he tries to do what he did at the first meeting here back in May, he'll struggle. But if he does drop him in, he'll be coming home as strong as any. I think he's got strong form lines as anything. Pendleton, a fairly confident choice to run his race there.
Pendleton 12-1, there for Andy, and Chill 12-1 as well. So the same price for those two selections. Interesting to see what they do with King's Lynn. On to the Golden Gate Stakes. Just 2 more races to go. Absolutely flying through them today. We've got Alfardel is the 6-1 favourite ahead of Fantastic Fox at 10-1, Siskiny 10-1, First Light 10-1, 12-1 Sarumi, and King Frankel 14-1 Seaset and Visualization, Baton Rouge, River Olwen, loads of others, Dubai Honour. Andy, we'll stick with you for this one here. How are you seeing this unfold?
Oh, yeah, I love this Alfardel. I think he's a proper horse in the making. If he would have been in any of the group races, pattern races at the festival, I would have been wanting to get with him. The fact that he's in a handicap off 98 is even more significant for me with regards to having a decent bet. Obviously, he's got to prove himself in this environment, which he hasn't done before, but he's handled fairly biggish fields, tight turns, such as Chester when he won. I thought he won with a bit in hand at Chester, and I thought his performance at Linfoot last time out was standout. I put up Sarumi on my column. Sarumi got an uncontested lead from the front. He set reasonable fractions. He kicked. He looked as though he got the race in safekeeping. Then along came Alfardel and absolutely breezed by him. His back-end sectionals were 22 and change, thus putting some substance on the reason why Sarumi got absolutely overhauled in the latter stages. And he hit the line very strong. And I just thought to myself, wow, that is a really good horse in the making. He doesn't mind a bit of giving the ground either, because Chester was good to soft. So if it is on the easy side come Saturday, he'd be absolutely bang on either way. So providing he gets a good draw, I'd be very keen to get with him. The other one I'd mention favourably as well, if he runs here, is a River Alwen. I'm not sure whether he runs early on in the week or not. I can't remember if he was in the King George. I'll have to refresh my memory. But he's jocked up to run here with Jamie Spencer on board. He took part in that London Gold Cup, which has already begun to work out well. King Frankel, who finished second, should have won at Epsom the other day, but obviously chucked it away through lethargy. And the fifth horse of Andrew Baldwin's won at Sandown the other day. But that was a very strongly run handicap. So the stronger the pace, the better River Isle want to be suited. And he also doesn't mind a bit of dig in the ground. So Alphadale would be the number one choice, but I'd probably put a little sneaky little half a point each way up on River Alwyn if he runs.
Yeah, Alphadale is, as I said, best price 6-1, and River Alwyn 14-1 best price at the moment. Ben?
Yeah, I think Alphadale has to be on everyone's shortlist. I'd be a little bit more sympathetic to King Frankel's defeat at Epsom than Andy. I thought he reared in the stalls that day, and just that really put him on the back foot from an early stage. But the way he finished his race, you have to think that running at Ascot is going to be much more suitable for him. And like Andy said, he comes from that excellent London Gold Cup form, which could well be boosted by the winner, Bay Bridge, who I think runs in the King Edward the 7 Stakes on Friday. So King Frankel is one that I'll be looking out for in this race. And also a C-set for Richard Fahey. If he gets in, I think he needs a few more to come out to get in the racing horse. But he just bumped into one of Roger Varian's, didn't he, at Haydock?
Rodenborg?
That's the one, yeah. I think he bumped into a very good horse that day.
Yeah.
And he's improving fast C-set, and going up in trip's going to help him as well. So if he sneaks in towards the bottom of the race, he's going to be on the short list. So C-set and King Frankel are on my radar.
C-set 14-1 best price as it stands. King Frankel 12-1. So 4 interesting selections at decent prices from the two guys here for the penultimate race of Royal Ascot, the Golden Gates, and then on to the lucky last, not of the day, but of the whole festival. And this is where it gets a little bit trickier to work out who's going to be running where, because we've got a couple of runners from yesterday's card who might feel like they fancy another crack at getting a Royal Ascot win. But going through the market, we've got Stratum at 11-2 alongside Falcon 8, who are joint favourites. Miranda at 7-1, Barbados at 7-1, Master of Reality 7-1, MC Muldoon, who has just touched off yesterday, is currently still in at 8-1. The Grand Vizier at 10-1, Cape Gentleman, who was an absolute smash-up job for Emmett Mullins, who ended up having to come from pretty much last to finish 5th in the same race, is 10-1 as well. Staghorn 10-1. Saldia, again, another one who is well backed, who didn't justify the market support, 12-1. Who Dares Wins 12-1. Andy, I'll come to you first here. I mean, looking at this, it's impossible to guess whether or not these horses are going to turn up again, but you can probably assume that if they do, they're probably going to be well supported again.
Unless there's something physically wrong with them, I can't believe that they won't roll the dice again with both Cape Gentleman and MC Muldoon, because they both had the kind of races to suggest that they might have just a little bit more lead left in their pencil, because it was a very tactically slowly run affair, and they basically just sprinted off the home turn for 3 furlongs, and given where they were just both caught with their trousers down. And look, they're over here already. They've probably gone somewhere, a box somewhere. So why not roll the dice again? Both prove that they handle Ascot, both prove they're in good nick, and both set of connections clearly fancied their chances the other day, and they've come unstuck. So there's a chance for retribution, isn't it, of some description. So I'll be surprised if either don't turn up. But either way, I do think Falcon 8 probably holds the key to this race based on his Chester Cup win. First and foremost, he proved that he gets a strongly run 2 mile 2, which has obviously got to be factored in this stamina sapping event. Plus the fact that he did it under 9 stone 10 as well, top weight. I thought it was a Herculean performance. Presume that Frankie will be looking to get with the horse again. I mean, he's got a real touch of class, this fella. He ran well in a Group 1 over in France, didn't he, a couple of years ago. So he brings a whole shed of class into the race, and there's just no sort of frailties in his makeup, as far as I can see. Ground, doesn't matter what ground it is. So yeah, he looks the one at this stage, despite those compelling claims from the refugees out that Ascot Stakes the other day.
Yeah, Falcon 8, 11-2 best price as it stands. The one for Andy, even if the other two from the big National Hunt Irish yards do turn up. Falcon 8, the one for Andy for Dermot Weld. Ben?
Yeah, obvious claims for Falcon 8. Really like the horse, and he looks another top stay for Dermot Weld, doesn't he? Stratum, I think, has been pointing at this from a long way out. We know what he can do over marathon trips. This as Harwich winner. I would think he will be William Mullins' number 1, but Mullins could run a handful of horses in this race, and even Saldier, he was just outpaced, wasn't he, on Tuesday?
Off the bridle so early.
Yeah, he was off the bridle with about 6 furlongs to go, but he punched on quite well, was only beaten a couple of lengths in the end, and you have to think that, all right, he had quite a hard race, but stepping up in trip to 2.5 miles plus is going to be very much in his favour. If he comes on from that run on Tuesday, he could be a player as well. But yeah, Difficult to see who's going to turn up. Falcon 8 looks the class horse. Willie Mullins has got a strong hand. Stratum looks his number one.
Stratum 11-2, as I say, joint favourite with Falcon 8. And that brings us to the end of this Royal Ascot preview. Before I let you guys go, I'm just going to ask you for your nap of the day. I'll give you a minute or so to think about it, but coming back to you in a second for your best bet. But in the meantime, just another reminder to download the oddschecker app. It is the one place to go for best prices, best bookie offers, free bets, all the best place terms, absolutely crucial. And as I say, make sure you do check out our sponsor Sky Bet, because they do really stick their neck out, giving you extra places for so many of these races at Royal Ascot. And of course, the best tipsters as well, where you can find Andy Holding's tips straight to the app every morning before racing, not just during Royal Ascot, but throughout the season. And also make sure you check out Ben's column over on Sporting Life as well for his tips every day of the week. Ben, coming to you first, what's the best bet of the day for Saturday, Royal Ascot?
I'm going to go with an old favourite of mine, Tis Marvellous in the Wokingham. I think he's well handicapped again now. He loves the course, and 16-1. He looks a good each way bet. So he's my Saturday nap. Tis Marvellous for Clive Cox.
Tis Marvellous, 16-1 best price for the Wokingham. Ben's nap. Andy?
So it depends how you interpret it, really. Best bet of the day or banker of the day, if you like. If you said to me banker of the day, I'd say Point Lonsdale, but I don't think he's the best bet of the day because he's 11-8. I think the best bet of the day at the price is, I think, 14-1 for Ace Ozzy in the jersey. I think he's overpriced. I think he'll be single-figure prices come Saturday.
We'll take that as 2 naps. I think that's where we'll go for it. And then you can.
Oh, well, you've got one win, one each way. There you go.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much, Andy and Ben, for sharing their insights today. And Andy, thank you very much. You deserve that holiday. So I hope you enjoy the racing.
Yes. I'll go down to the beach later.
Perfect. Great stuff. Do check out Sky Bet for all their offers and their enhanced pace terms and other things all the way through Royal Ascot. Please do download the oddschecker app. You can find every single day's preview. So if you're watching this and day 3 hasn't happened yet, then do go back to the oddschecker YouTube channel and subscribe there, and you can find all of our previews, or any podcast provider as well should have them there. Hopefully we flagged up a bit of value here today. So please do enjoy the rest of Royal Ascot, and please do gamble responsibly.